So for this week's video, I figured it would be appropriate to do the sister of last week's video. I'm going to be driving a Dodge Challenger SRT 392 Hemi. In the last video I was in the Dodge Charger SRT 392 Hemi. There's a lot of things about this car and the Charger that are very, very similar. I mean, performance-wise, it's almost identical. So I guess what I'm saying is this is basically the twin sister to the Charger, but not identical twins. The other kind of twins. Can't remember the name right now, but the other kind of twins, non-identical twins. Yeah. Okay. Fraternal twins. That's what it is. All right. Moving on. So the power plant of this car is the same. It's the 6.4 liter Hemi V8 that produces 485 horsepower, 475 foot-pounds of torque. One of the major differences between this particular car and the Charger is the gearbox. The Charger is an automatic with an 8-speed transmission. With that transmission, you do have the option to switch it into the manual mode, or you can play with the paddle shifters, or there's the shifter that's on the actual console there too. But this one is a full manual transmission, but it adds a lot to the fun aspect of driving the car, which I'm all about. A lot of other things that are similar about the car, and I didn't actually get the chance to go into a lot of detail, about the Charger, as far as, you know, the suspension and the brakes and everything else, all the options on the car. So I'm going to talk about it with this car, and we will just use that for the Charger too, because it's pretty much the same. So the suspension on this is electronically controlled, and the way that works is there's electronic pulses that are sent into the hydraulic fluid in the suspension that has magnetic properties to it. So as you change the different electronic pulses that go into that fluid, you can either stiffen up or soften the shocks, which is a pretty cool technology, and it allows to change instantaneously from a softer, more comfortable setting, you know, for driving around on the road, to a, you know, very stiff, aggressive setting for track driving. So needless to say, I'm going to be in the track mode because that's where we're going to be driving. This is called Track Talk, so might as well put it into track mode. Another thing that is electronically controlled with this car and the Charger is the steering. They've put a electronically controlled steering gear in these cars, which also allows us to change steering settings in a very similar fashion. You've got a street setting, which is, you know, a very light feel, easy to turn the wheel, really comfortable, but it's not very responsive. You have to put a lot more steering angle into the car to actually get the car to turn. There's the same settings. There's a sport and a track for the steering as well, which stiffens up the feel, and it reduces the amount of steering angle you need to turn the wheels the same amount, which is also pretty cool. So again, needless to say, we will be putting this in track mode for the track. So enough about the car. I want to get to driving it. I do want to talk about the track a little bit, just so you guys have an idea on where I'm actually testing the limits of these cars, where I'm testing the true performance. Like I mentioned in my last video, I'm here in Phoenix, Arizona at the Bondurant Racing School, and more specifically, I'm going to be doing these tests on their West track, which I brought a little mapped for us here. It is it's compiled of 9 corners. It's about 1.1 miles in length, so it's not a super long track, but as you're taking a look at this, you can see that there's a pretty good variety. We've got some tight corners over here, some wider, longer corners over here and over here and over here. There's a pretty decent straightaway. My point is there's a good variety of different types of corners on this track, which will allow me to test the low speed abilities of the car in the tighter, more technical corners, as well as the high speed capabilities of the car in the wider, longer, faster corners. And then obviously the straightaway, we can get a good idea on how fast the car can get going in the straight line. So here we go. Oh crap, this thing's far back there. That's cool. Another cool feature about this car is it has ventilated seats. It has absolutely nothing to do with performance, but has everything to do with awesomeness. So vented seat on, traction control off, suspension and steering set to track, and here we go. Coming down from pit lane. Good. Now the thing that I noticed the most was the transmission. The manual transmission is always going to be, in my opinion, more fun to drive on the track. But I wasn't a fan of this transmission, of this particular manual gearbox. And that may have something to do with the track, but the gearing was just, it just didn't feel quite right to me. It was always in between, and it just feels like you're driving a semi-truck in some ways, just because the throw of the shifter is so long. But other than that, I really enjoyed driving the car. It is several hundred pounds lighter than the Charger, so the potential for speed going through the corners has increased. So the performance aspect, you're able to go a little bit faster around the track because of that. So one thing I've decided to do with these videos is get lap times in each of the cars. You know, with my opinion of the car set aside, we can really just lay it out as to how each of the cars is doing, and not that I want to compare each car to one another, but it will just give us a good reference as to how each car is actually doing on the same track, right? We know a little bit about each of these cars, and being able to put that with how fast it's able to go around the track will really give us a good idea on how the car truly performs. In the Charger, on this track, I showed you what the track was, 9 corners, about 1.1 miles. It was able to do it in 1 minute, 6 seconds, .6. So 106.6. In the Challenger, I was able to do it in a 106.4. before. So 2/10 faster in this car. To wrap this video up, I think in a lot of ways my opinion of this car is very much the same as it is in the Charger. I think there is a little bit more fun to driving this car just because it being a manual transmission. Now, setting aside the couple things that I wasn't a huge fan of with this particular manual transmission in this particular car, with the gear ratio and the throw of the shifter, with all that set aside, I love driving manuals. That's what I prefer to drive on the track, just because it's a little bit more fun. You're a little bit more involved with the driving, but this car handles really well. It handles a little bit better than the Charger just because it's that couple hundred pounds lighter. It's able to carry a little bit more speed around the corners because of that. But I think it could do also really well for any type of competitive driving that you would be interested in or plan on doing with this Challenger SRT. So yeah, hopefully you guys liked the video. If you did, like, subscribe, share, and hopefully we'll see you guys next time. Bye.